Title: What a Wedding Mess. Act 1: The unexpected and somewhat suspicious proposal. Lucia, a young yoga teacher with the soul of a Bollywood star, sighed for a movie-like love. Not just any love, one with an epic soundtrack and unexpected twists. What she didn't expect was that her Prince Charming would arrive in the form of a plumber. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, her boyfriend, a shy and somewhat clumsy man named Pablo, was not exactly the leading man of her dreams. But, hey, love is blind, no? And Lucia, well, she saw a something in Pablo. A something that, according to her mother, was more like pity than true love. One day, while they were having dinner at an Italian restaurant with checkered tablecloths and a cheap bottle of Chianti, Pablo, with sweaty hands and a look of "I'm going to vomit," knelt down and proposed marriage. Lucia, who at that moment was more worried about whether the tomato sauce had stained her blouse, took a few seconds to react. "Marry? With you?" "Oh?" he asked with a nervous smile. "Oh, Pablo, what emotion! But what a surprise. I didn't expect it at all. Well, a little bit, yes." Note the sarcasm. Pablo, relieved that she hadn't sent him away, nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, Lucia, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. You are the woman of my life." Lucia, with a mixture of emotion and panic, accepted the proposal. "Yes, Pablo, I'll marry you. We'll be happy forever. Or at least we'll try." Note: e cautious, optimism. Act 2: The chaotic and slightly surreal preparations. And so, the odyssey of the wedding preparations began. Oh my god, what stress! Lucia, with her chaotic spirit and love of drama, turned the planning into a soap opera. The first thing was the wedding dress. What horror! Lucia tried on dresses of all styles and sizes, from the classic princess dress to the modern mermaid dress. But none convinced her. "This dress, it makes me look like a meatball," Lucia exclaimed upon trying on an empire waist dress. "And this one makes me look like a ghost," she said upon seeing a white lace dress. Her mother, who accompanied her in the search, wasn't much help. "That dress is too revealing," she said about a dress with a low back. "And that one is too boring," she said about a simple and elegant dress. In the end, Lucia found the perfect dress. A pompous and extravagant wedding dress, with lace, jewelry, and a kilometer-long tail. "It's the dress of my dreams," she exclaimed with tears in her eyes. Her mother, for her part, rolled her eyes. The organization of the ceremony and the banquet was another chaos. Lucia and Pablo did not agree on anything. He wanted a simple and discreet wedding. She dreamed of a spectacular and extravagant wedding. "I want a wedding with fireworks," said Lucia. "And I want a wedding with a vegetarian menu," replied Pablo. Finally, they reached an agreement. They would have a wedding their way, a mix of classic and modern, simple and extravagant, a real mishmash. Act 3: The disastrous and slightly embarrassing bachelorette party. Lucia's bachelorette party was a disaster. Her friends, a group of fun and slightly crazy women, took her to a karaoke bar where she sang disastrous songs and danced until dawn. Lucia, who had no idea how to sing, dared to sing a CL Whitney Houston's Basic. The result was catastrophic. The public, instead of applauding, began to laugh and boo. But Lucia, oblivious to the criticism, continued singing enthusiastically. She felt like a star. After the karaoke, Lucia's friends took her to a nightclub where she danced until dawn. Lucia, who didn't know how to dance, moved to the rhythm of the music like a robot. She looked like a mix between Michael Jackson and a scarecrow. The next day, Lucia woke up with that terrible hangover, and a lot of compromising photos on her mobile. Her friends assured her that the night was unforgettable, but she wasn't so sure. Act 4: The accidental and slightly surreal wedding. The wedding day finally arrived. Lucia got up early and prepared nervously. She put on her wedding dress, put on her makeup, and combed her hair with the help of her mother and friends. The ceremony began late. The groom was nervous and stammered when he said, "I do." The priest he mistook the name, and Lucia's mother cried inconsolably. During the banquet, all kinds of incidents occurred. The waiter stumbled and spilled a glass of red wine on Lucia's wedding dress. The groom's father gave a boring and embarrassing speech. and the wedding cake fell to the ground before they could serve it. But despite the incidents, the wedding was a success. The guests had a great time, dancing, singing, and laughing until dawn. Act V. The trip their surreal and somewhat uncomfortable honeymoon. After the wedding, Lucia and Pablo went on their honeymoon to an exotic destination. But the trip was not as they expected. The hotel was a disaster, the food was inedible, and the weather was horrible. Furthermore, Lucia and Pablo argued all the time. Act 6. The return to reality and a bit of shock. After the disastrous honeymoon, Lucia and Pablo returned home, eager to begin their life as a married couple. However, the reality of married life quickly imposed itself, and was not exactly the fairy tale they had imagined. Lucia discovered that Pablo was not the adventurous and spontaneous man she had expected. He was a creature of habit, he was content with his routine, and he wasn't interested in trying new things. Lucia, on the other hand, longed for excitement and spontaneity. Their differences led to arguments and misunderstandings. Lucia felt trapped in a boring and predictable life, while Pablo, he felt overwhelmed by Lucia's energy and impulsiveness. One day, after a particularly heated argument, Lucia realized that she could not continue living a lie. She had married Pablo hoping to change him, but he was not going to change, and she was not happy pretending to be someone she was not. Act 7. A new beginning and a touch of self-discovery. Lucia made the difficult decision to separate from Pablo. It was a painful experience, but she knew it was the correct to. She moved to a small apartment and focused on her yoga teaching and her own happiness. She reunited with her friends, who had supported her throughout her marriage. She began taking dance classes, something she had always wanted to do. She even went out with some people, although none of the men she met seemed to be the one. One day, while teaching a yoga class, Lucia met a man named Javier. He was a musician, passionate, and free-spirited. They struck up a conversation after class, and they discovered that they had a lot in common. Javier invited Lucia to a concert, and she accepted. They had a wonderful time, laughing and talking for hours. Lucia felt a spark that she hadn't felt in a long time. Epilogue, with a hint of hope. Lucia learned that marriage was not a fairy tale, and that sometimes love does not conquer all. But she also learned that it is never too late to start over and find happiness. As she embraced her new freedom and independence, she followed her passions and discovered new ones. She surrounded herself with people who loved and supported her, and although she didn't find her happily ever after with Pablo, she found something even better. She found herself, and that, she realized, was the most important love story of all. The end.